In this video, I'm going to show you 4 tips for painting tree foliage as I show you how to paint this landscape. Hi, Sam here, thanks for joining me. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 tips for painting tree foliage, which I'll show you in the context of this little South Island, New Zealand scene. And I also give you some general landscape painting tips. If you'd like to have a go at painting this, then click the link below for the written notes that accompany this video, and as always feel free to use the photos and copy the painting tutorial if you'd like to have a go at painting it yourself. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Anyway, let's just get straight into the video, grab your paint and let's roll the tape. I'm working on an 8" by 10" linen panel. And I've toned it with a layer of burnt sienna, which helps to give the painting some warmth and gives it that traditional feel. I begin sketching out the composition with a No. 1 round brush and burnt sienna. I've mixed the burnt sienna with some liquid, and I'm going to be using liquid throughout the painting as my medium, as it helps to thin the paint and it also speeds up the drying. So as I'm sketching out the composition, I'll just briefly go over the idea behind it. So as you can see from my main reference photo here, it's already forming a pretty good composition naturally, so there wasn't too much to change. Now this area is not too far from the town of Queenstown in southern New Zealand. This place is called Tucker Beach, although I'm not sure why it's called Tucker Beach because it's well inland and nowhere near the sea. The area is surrounded by mountains and there's lots of European trees that have been planted here. I think this whole area is beautiful and I've been plein air painting out here many times. So my composition is based on a steelyard composition where you have a large mass, which is the trees on the left, and then it's counterbalanced by a smaller mass in the distance. And the whole idea behind this composition is to bring balance to the overall painting. I'll also just go over the colours I'm using. I'm using oil paint, but you can use acrylics as well. And the colours I'm using include titanium white, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, but you can also use yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, quinacridone crimson, and you can also use alizarin crimson if you want, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green. Once I've finished sketching out my composition, the first thing I then want to focus on is values. Value refers to how light or dark a colour is, and I personally think getting your values right is more important than colours. So when I begin blocking in a painting, the first thing I want to establish is the whole tonality of the painting, and the easiest way to do this is to establish your dark values first. So to do this, I determine where the major zones of shadows and darks are in the painting, and I paint those first. First of all, I'm using a No. 6 flat brush and I start by painting the cloud shadows and then the mountain shadows. And I'm using the same colours for both mixtures, which includes ultramarine blue, some burnt sienna to desaturate, then I add some quinacridone crimson to give it a violet tint, and then I adjust the value by mixing in titanium white. So the clouds are the lightest of the shadows, then the shadows in the background mountain are getting darker, but they're still a mid-tone. You are most likely to find your darkest shadows in the foreground of a landscape, and trees are often some of the darkest values in the landscape. So this leads me on to my first tip for painting trees. Paint the tree shadows first. The tree shadows in my reference photos are dark and not particularly high in chroma, so for this I mix a combination of ultramarine blue with some yellow oxide, which creates a very dark green, and then I round off the mixture with some burnt sienna. Some of the tree shadows in this scene are definitely more green, and so for this I add more yellow oxide into the mix. The yellow oxide makes the value of the mixture lighter, as yellow is generally a light colour. It can be a good way to make a colour lighter without needing to add white. So at this stage of the painting I've got all my dark values in first, and I find that this is the easiest way to establish a tonal dynamic in your painting, right from the early stages. And from here on it's going to be much easier to add in the areas that are in light and get the saturation of those colours correct. So now all those dark values are down on the canvas, or linen in this case, I can start painting the areas that are in light, and I'll begin with the sky. So what I've done here is I've started with the cloud highlights. I'm using a number 6 flat brush, and I mix titanium white with some burnt sienna. This gives the cloud highlights a subtle orange tone, and it also mixes in nicely with the shadows, as the shadows of the clouds also contain burnt sienna. I'm quite happy to let the cloud highlights mix in with the shadows, and I use my brush to blend some of these colours together. I can also refine some of those cloud shadow shapes by using my shadow mix that I was using to start with. Next I mix the colours for the sky, which is ultramarine blue with some titanium white, and then I've added in just a tiny amount of phthalo green, which just adds a richness to that blue. For the areas of the distant mountain that's in light, I need to mix a really desaturated colour. The mountain grass that grows on it is naturally pale, and so for this I mix ultramarine blue with some yellow oxide, titanium white to make the value light, and then I round it off with some burnt sienna and a little quinacridone crimson. Desaturating the colour with the burnt sienna and the quinacridone crimson is going to help the mountain to sit back in the painting. There are a lot of greens in this scene, and green can be a bit of a tricky colour to work with, especially when there's so much of it in the landscape. But I think part of the trick to making them look more harmonious in the painting is to try and use colours that you've already used elsewhere in the painting as well. Adding a red element to the green also helps to balance out the colour. So I've painted the grass here in the foreground, and it's one of the lighter values that's in the landscape. And for this I've mixed ultramarine blue with yellow oxide to start with, and then I've introduced cadmium yellow, which really bumps up the saturation. I then rounded off with some cadmium orange and some quinacridone crimson, which is my red element, and then I make the whole value of the colour lighter by adding in titanium white. Now, as I said a moment ago, grass is one of your lighter values in the landscape, as opposed to trees, which are some of the darkest values in the landscape. Which brings me on to tip number 2. Now when it comes to painting trees, we need to keep in mind that the value needs to be darker than most of the other elements in the landscape, and especially grass. Now this is just a general rule of thumb, and there are some exceptions. For example, some broadleaf trees like willows or poplars can have light coloured foliage in spring. The colour of the leaves usually gets darker in the summer though. Conifer trees, however, usually have dark foliage. It's always a good idea to keep the tone of your trees darker in the landscape so that they stand out. I'm therefore mixing darker greens for the foliage of these poplar trees, and I'm actually using the same colour that I've used in the grass, but I've added more ultramarine blue and more cadmium yellow. I've also used less titanium white. I use a number 6 flat brush to paint the silty sand in the river basin. It's a low chroma colour and light in value, so I mix some ultramarine blue with some burnt sienna, a tiny amount of quinacridone crimson, a lot of titanium white, and then I also mix in a very small amount of yellow oxide. Now that the painting is well underway and the blocking in stage looking closer to completion, I can start defining the forms of the trees by restating the shadows. Now, a brush I find really useful for painting tree foliage is a dagger brush, which leads me on to my third tip for painting tree foliage. Dagger brushes are exceptionally useful for painting tree foliage. You can use the flat end of the brush to create texture within the tree's canopy, and then you can also use the tip of the brush to create some more finer details and suggestion of smaller leaves. In restating the tree shadows for the poplars in the foreground, I've still used my existing green mix, but then I've added in a little cadmium yellow and quinacridone crimson. At the moment I want to keep the value of the colour dark so that I can build some lighter layers later on in the painting. I also paint the shadows for the trees in the midground, and I'm using the same colour combination, but I make the value a little lighter, and you can do this by adding either more yellow, which is light in value anyway, or titanium white. You'll only need a small amount of these colours. I can use the tip of my dagger brush to paint the conical shapes of these conifer trees. And here I fill in all the trees that are in the midground. I finish up the blocking in stage by tidying up the areas of foliage on the poplar trees that are in light. And for this I'm using a number 6 flat brush. I'm just establishing the major zones so that once it's dry I can start adding detail. As well as dagger brushes, flat brushes are also great for painting tree foliage, as you can get that nice painterly effect and texture within the tree's crown. Once the blocking in stage was complete and I allowed the painting to dry, I was then able to begin the process of building up the detail within the trees. The blocking in process merely serves as a map to define the major areas of colour and tone, and it serves as a base to work on to begin adding detail in the painting. I begin working on the crown of the poplar tree by using my dagger brush to add in some dark accents within the crown. At this stage in the painting I'd already done some work on the midground, so I was then able to use my dagger brush to start further establishing the shape of the poplar trees, painting the suggestion of clumps of leaves that are in shadow. Here at this stage I start beginning to build up the detail for the foliage that's in full sunlight, and again I'm using a dagger brush. I mix a combination of ultramarine blue with a little yellow oxide and cadmium yellow to start with. Then I harmonise the green by mixing in a little cadmium orange and a little quinacridone crimson, as adding that red element helps to make the green look more natural. I can then adjust the value and make the colour lighter by mixing in some titanium white. I mostly use the tip of the dagger brush to start painting the suggestion of individual clumps of leaves. I use the same method for painting in the reflected light in the foliage in the shadow of the tree. And for this I mix ultramarine blue with some yellow oxide, a little cadmium yellow and quinacridone crimson, and also titanium white just to make the value a little lighter. I use a number 0 round brush for painting the highlights on the foliage for the trees in the midground. This brush is perfect for painting some of those Lombardy poplar trees and sycamore trees that are in the right side of the painting in the midground. I'm able to further define the shape of these poplar trees by filling in the negative spaces and creating gaps within the tree canopies. For this I'm using a number 2 flat brush and the same mixture that I used to mix the clouds in the distance. I add a few marks within the tree canopy to create the illusion of gaps where light is coming through it. As I continue the modelling process in this painting, I start adding more layers to the trees in the foreground. And with each layer it's getting progressively lighter. I'm still using the same colour mix, but I'm making it lighter each time. And I do this by mixing in more titanium white. But as the titanium white does also desaturate the colour a little, I also need to readjust it by adding in colours such as cadmium yellow, cadmium orange and phthalo green, just to maintain the saturation of that colour. As I start building up the finer detail, I'm using the tip of the dagger brush more. As well as adding lighter layers to the trees in the foreground, I also do the same in the shadow areas as well, painting in some of that reflected light. I add more lighter layers to the trees in the midground, and then I'm constantly making sure that those relationships between the colours and values are working. It may be that I need to readjust some of those colours and values to make sure that everything's matching up. At this stage of the painting it was very nearly complete, which just meant there was a few more details to add. But this also brings me on to my fourth and final tip for this video, which is save your lightest values until the end of the painting. So this actually applies to painting landscapes in general as well as trees. I finished painting the poplar tree by adding the lightest values, which is where the glossy leaves are reflecting the direct sunlight. So for this I mix a combination of titanium white with my existing green mix, and I also mix in a little cadmium yellow and a little cadmium orange. I selectively add those marks with a 00 round brush. I finish up the painting by adding a few final details and highlights, for example the grass in the foreground, where I've used my tree highlight mix to paint the suggestion of blades of grass that are shimmering in the direct sunlight. Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check the link below for the written notes that accompany this video and have a go at painting it yourself. There's a couple of reference photos for you to use on the blog post and a step-by-step written tutorial for you to follow.
Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a like. Also, if you have any questions regarding painting trees, then leave it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And also if you've got any suggestions for future videos you'd like me to make. If you'd like to see more of my artwork, then you can follow me on my various social media platforms including Instagram, Facebook and Pinterest. But be sure to subscribe to my website at samuelearp.com, where I'll send you emails of news, painting videos, blog posts, art tips, special offers and more. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.